My name is Abby Suckle. I'm an architect and I'm president of Culture Now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the railroad that goes beneath Park Avenue. It was called the New York and Harlem Railroad, and it was chartered by New York State in 1831, making it among the first passenger railroads in the United States. Initially, it consisted of horse-drawn open cars which connected the then rural village of Harlem to Lower Manhattan. This terminated at City Hall Park, but that ended shortly after the advent of steam locomotives, as it became far too dangerous downtown to run the trains. They ran at grade along 4th Avenue, primarily because it was the widest street in the city. Since Harlem was rural, the railroad was not particularly busy, and its stock was considered worthless. That is until Cornelius Vanderbilt and some of the aldermen started trading in it. Through a series of not particularly kosher machinations involving city and state politicians and some stock shorting, Vanderbilt managed to acquire control of the line in 1863. Realizing the potential increase in traffic as the city moved further north, he began to make improvements almost immediately. He bought rail, he upgraded the cars, and he increased the service. The terminus was moved further north to Grand Central Depot at 42nd Street, and by that time they were running 80 trains a day. Since everything was at grade, there were so many accidents that Vanderbilt was accused of bribing the coroner's office to conceal the number of deaths. Needless to say, there were many calls for covering the tracks. Vanderbilt only wanted fences, and he put bridges in. Nothing much happened until it was discovered that the original agreement with the city permitted closing the rail line if it interfered with ordinary use of the street. His chief engineer, Isaac Buckhout, came up with a hybrid plan that cost $6 million in 1865 to cover the yards below 96th Street and leave those further north with open metal bridges. 10 years later, the work resulted in nearly 3 miles of green traffic mediums between Grand Central Depot and 96th Street. In honor of this transformation, 4th Avenue was renamed Park Avenue, and it quickly became the sought-after address for New York's high society along nearby 5th Avenue. The accidents still continued, and the whole thing came to a head at 8:20 a.m. on January 8th, 1902, when an inbound express from South Norwalk, Connecticut, stopped in the tunnel at 856th Street, waiting for clearance to go into Grand Central. It was snowing again, and a local from White Plains, despite warning signals as far back as 63rd Street, crashed into the express, shredding its 2 rear passenger cars. The scene was appalling. Firefighters who climbed the walls down into the tunnel found a panorama of horrors. 3 men were hanging out of window in mid-escape, but scalded to death by the escaping steam. One, Amanda F. Howard of New Rochelle, was given whiskey by a fireman while trapped, but then killed when a steam line burst. A woman trapped by the bodies of 2 men was rescued by a fireman who said, "I'll handle you as gently as I can. You mustn't mind if I violated some of the conventionalities." The engineer said he couldn't see the signals because of the snow and the steam. He was indicted but not convicted, and no railroad officials were punished. But this was the end of steam. By 1903, the New York State Legislature required a conversion to electricity, which prompted a redesign of the station by the team of Reed and Stem and Warren and Wetmore into what became Grand Central Terminal. Park Avenue above ground underwent a series of transitions, which is continuing to this day. The original curving medians were shaved in 1927 to permit an additional automobile lane, and since this is a platform, in order to allow movement on the street, there are a series of expansion joints. Over the past century, water and salt have leaked into the tracks, and the Department of Transportation is currently using this opportunity to repair the street, which is what you can see currently if you walk down it.